and the design of a city with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on a National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. I ask all present to stand in silence on this Remembrance Day in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country at sea, on land and in the air. A silence which has been observed at 11 a.m. this morning across the country and in all of City of Adelaide's facilities, lest we forget. Thank you. Please be seated. Okay, we have apologies and leave of absence. We have 2 leave of absence from one from the Right Honourable the Lord Mayor, Dr. Jane Lomax-Smith, and from Councillor Abrahimzadeh. For any more apologies today? No. Let's move swiftly onwards. Members, I seek and move and a seconder for confirmation of the minutes held on the 21st of October 2025 and for the ordinary meeting held on the 28th of October 2025. We can take those together. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Opposed? I think that passed unanimously. Move on to declarations of conflict of interest. Do any councillors wish to make a declaration? Councillor Martin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will have a conflict of interest in relation to the motion on notice at 17.1 and then the confidential item at 24.1. They are both concerned with the Adelaide Central Market, and as I am a member of the ACMA board, I will have a material conflict of interest. I will leave the room and not participate in those matters.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Okay, moving onwards. We have, in regards to deputations, we had 1 deputation request for tonight's meeting in relation to regulation and classification of books within public libraries. After consultation, I advise that in accordance with the Code of Practice for Council meeting procedures, I have declined request on the basis that this is a matter for the Libraries Board of South Australia and is not relevant to matters being considered at the meeting of this Council. Move on to petitions.
I'm sorry, just a question. It's part of the Local Government Act that this Council advocates on behalf of our ratepayers. You regularly move motions to support or not support state policies. Why is it in your wisdom that you refuse to hear from one member of our community? Is it because it didn't align with your political views?
Councillor, I received advice from the administration, and the administration reached out to the individual involved, and the individual was happy to rescind the request for a deputation.
Can I please have a copy of that advice?
I will see what we can do.
Thank you.
If there is communication, written communication.
Through the presiding member, the request is a copy of the acknowledgement from the deputy. Is that what you're seeking?
No, Councillor Snape said that he was provided with advice not to hear someone because it didn't relate to a council matter, even despite the fact that the Act says that we should take a representative role, something that Councillor Snape himself has advocated previously on other issues such as nuclear energy. We have a nuclear energy policy which has nothing to do with City of Adelaide. If a resident wants to come and talk to us, or a ratepayer wants to come and talk to us about what's in our libraries, how can you possibly reject them? And I would like to see the advice that you relied on to reject someone who'd like to give a recommendation.
Point of order from Councillor Martin.
Acting Lord Mayor, look, our meeting standing orders provide for members to stand when they speak, whether it's to ask a question or to address the chamber.
That is correct. Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Davis, going forward, if you could stand when using the microphone, that'd be much appreciated. To answer your question, we were sent a deputation request. We have refused a deputation request. My understanding is the person who made a deputation request made a request for a deputation, accepted administration's response, and that is the end of the matter.
It's not the end of the matter because you've misrepresented what our role is.
Point of order, Chair. The member is ignoring your direction. That is to say, he's ignoring the chair and your ruling.
I do acknowledge that. Councillor Davis, I have made a decision on a matter. I'm happy, if you're not satisfied with that decision, I'm happy for you to take it to the Lord Mayor upon her return.
No, I'll take it up with you.
I have finalised my decision.
Can you please circulate your reasons for your decision?
Councillor, I've made a decision. We are moving forward.
Can you please circulate the reasons for your decision, or are you going to keep it hidden and confidential?
Through the presiding member, my understanding is there's a request for the rationale for the declination of the deputy request. We can provide that through e-news over the coming days.
Thank you, CEO. Moving on to item 11, the advice of the Caterpillar Adelaide Parklands Authority. And the board is providing advice on two matters. Noting its advice on item 6.1, the meeting dates, and item 6.2, the community land management plan for the Adelaide Oval Precinct. Councillor Martin, are you wishing to move the motion?
I am.
Fantastic. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Giles. Any discussion, Councillor Martin?
I
reserve your right. Councillor Giles, would you like to speak? Would any other members like to speak to this item? If not, back to you, Councillor Martin. In that case, all those in favour? Opposed?
sorry, I didn't get my hand in the air.
Vote again. All those in favour? Opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Okay, item 12, the recommendation of the City Community Services and Culture Committee. The committee is making one recommendation to Council, and Councillor Giles, you are the acting chair for this committee meeting. Would you like to move it?
Yes, I so move.
Fantastic. I'm going to seek a seconder. Councillor Marr, just sharing it around there. Councillor Giles, would you like to speak on this item?
I'll only just briefly outline that this was a successful program. There was good discussion at the committee and agreement that we should build on the success of this program and the learnings from the program in order to continue to make our businesses and community more accessible and inclusive in the City of Adelaide.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Marr, you are a seconder.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Would any other members like to speak on this item? In that case, we'll move. All those in favour? All those opposed? Unanimous once again. Thank you, members. Okay, we'll move to item 13. That is the recommendations of the City Planning, Development and Business Affairs Committee from the 4th of November. I believe Councillor Noon, you were chairing this meeting. Would you like to move this item? Fantastic. Seconded. Councillor Martin, are you seconding or question?
No, Acting Lord Mayor. I wondered if we could request that the matter be taken in parts.
I will seek a seconder prior to that, but happy if the mover is, of course. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Freeman, fantastic. Councillor Noon, would you like to speak to this item? Right. Councillor Freeman. Would any of the members like to speak on this item? Councillor Martin.
Are you referring to 7.1 or 7.2, Chair?
Oh, yes, we're taking it in parts. Apologies. So we'll talk to item 7.1, Tree Martin Man.
No, I'd like to speak to 7.2, if I may, please.
Okay. Yep, so we do on the first. Yep, cool. In that case, with no further comments on item 7.1, all those in favour?
Wait. The mover and second, didn't they vote for both? Are we moving 7.1 and 7.2 on block together? We're just taking them in parts? Or is there two separate motions, one for 7.1 and then one for 7.2?
Let me seek advice on that. Thank you, Councillor.
You're going too fast, I think.
Okay, Councillor, I believe you are actually correct. Thank you. Appreciate your advice. So, Councillor Martin, would you like to take this opportunity to speak to item 7.2 before we then take the two items?
Yes, I would. I'd like to actually propose an alternative motion. It represents a very small change, but nonetheless an important one. And for the sake of the administration and members, it is that after the words requests administration re-present, and I think we need a hyphen between re and present, re-present and insert the words to the CPBD committee, a revised, and it continues on a revised. And just one other small one, and I can't see what's happening, but I'm assuming it's there. After community land management plan on the second line, just insert the word after that, includes, delete limit, includes the hosting of events, and that's the alteration. And lose the words that and limit.
Councillor Martin, are you happy with those?
Yes, I am.
As they present?
I am indeed.
Councillor, we can take this as a variation.
Happy with the variation?
With the consent of mover and seconder. Councillor Ning? Yep, seconder. Who was Councillor Freeman? Councillor Freeman, you happy with that variation? Okay.
Thank you very much, Acting Lord Mayor. Members will recall at committee last week we were presented with a new CLMP for the Adelaide Oval precinct, which was completely at odds with the 2020 decision and recommendation to Council, seconded by Councillor Kouros, in relation to the CLMP, which was adopted after fairly extensive consultant reports and designed in such a way to avoid disruption, particularly to local residents, but to others. And the administration advised us at paragraph 27 of the committee papers that there's no explicit reference to the Live Golf redevelopment, but it's quite probably, even though the government hasn't confided in us what information it has, it's quite probable there's a role there in this CLMP and the Live Golf proposal about which we know nothing and about which we haven't discussed. So out of caution, the committee agreed that we would refer this back to committee. The recommendation, however, doesn't say that, and so just to ensure the literal accuracy of, I've inserted the words to the CPBD committee, and I've added the words that includes that limit. We're not limiting anything. There is already a clear direction in that CLMP about what the events are. We're not seeking to extend that. And so in order to avoid confusion or fear among people that we are seeking to do that, I've made that very minor adjustment. So it is pretty much as we agreed, except for those very minor changes, and I seek the support of members in adopting this, which was the intention of the committee.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Davis.
Can I just ask a question in relation to this representation or representation? would we actually write to them to let them know our decision and seek feedback? Because I don't want to find our position, I don't want to be in a position where the government just comes and takes control of the precinct and lose it. If we don't know exactly why and what the purpose is for the request, should we not write to them or ask them to come and speak to us about the variation?
Through the presiding member, as a matter of course, considering the potential direction of council, we would engage with the relevant state government department to appraise them of this proposal, noting it's about representing a CLMP for the purpose of public consultation. So between now and the re-presentation to the committee, the administration will engage with state government at the very least at an officer level.
Would you like to speak to the motion, or would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, if I can speak to the motion. In relation to the tree martins, I'm quite dismayed that it's taken us this long to get to this point. I mean, tree martin scouts will arrive in the city, I believe, early December, and we'll still be chatting about it and chirping away. Meanwhile, our main shopping precinct will see a swarm of birds come in, and we don't really have a strategy to deal with that. That's quite concerning, I think, given that we were the ones who installed the nets on the advice of experts, maybe. And we've shifted this problem to now Rondell Mall, which is the worst place they could possibly be. I'm also concerned that there was a lot of paraphrasing of the chair of AIDA saying, well, you know, if we had these mitigating strategies in place, then he would be fine with it, or AIDA would be fine with it. I don't think that's necessarily the case, and I think we should seek AIDA to come and speak to the impacts of the tree martins on Rondell Mall to the economic precinct, given that we're not experts when it comes to running businesses. So I am very concerned, and I'm also concerned with the Adelaide Oval Precinct proposal to reject it. I agree they haven't really justified why they need it, what the circumstances are around it. And they are going against the consultation in many ways. But I also don't want to be in a situation where they just come and seize the entire asset. The Premier is very, very good at moving people out of the way, and he will do that. And I've seen him do it before, probably a bit to my benefit, but on occasion with a lot of anxiety. So I think that if we can work with the Premier to achieve the outcomes, and if that is part of the outcomes of why this proposal has come through, then that would be, I think, in our best interest, because he will move people out of the way, and the government will move people out of the way if they get in their way. So I think we should be working with the government so that we don't lose complete control and any influence over this site. That's what I forecast would come. But I look forward to the revised community land management. I'm very glad that we'll be reaching out to the department for comment.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any of the members like to address this item? Councillor Noon, would you like to sum up? In that case, members, all those in favour? Oh, sorry, of part one, sorry. All those in favour of part one? Opposed? Passed. All those in favour of recommendation 2, part 2? Opposed? Thank you, members. Okay. 14.1? Yep. Okay, item 14.1, a long-term financial plan consultation feedback. Noting that at this point it is just a consultation feedback. It's not the item more substantially, but we've got two hands up, both willing to move. Councillor Stephen, seconded by Councillor Davis.
I'm not seconding it. I have an alternative motion, but I understand you've got to pick the people in your faction.
We need a seconder for this item, please. Councillor Giles. Councillor Stephen.
I reserve my right for the time being, Acting Lord Mayor.
Councillor Giles.
Am I allowed to reserve my right? Yes, I'll reserve my right.
Any of the members?
Yeah.
Councillor Davis, will you want to
Yeah, I'd like to move an amendment that this matter be presented back to, that the results of the consultation be presented to the City Finance and Governance Committee on the 19th of November. No, it says that we accept the summary and that no changes to financial projections are recommended.
And do you have a seconder for this alternate motion? Sorry, amendment. Apologies. Councillor Couros, seconding. All right, Councillor Davis.
May I ask a question before I speak?
Of course, yes.
In item 14.1 of the report, the administration, in their report to us, summarised that 55% were in agreement or neutral to the overall financial approach proposed in long-term fund, and 45 disagreed. Why was neutral included in the with support or slightly support rather than the disagree portion? Why was that distinction made, or why was it not just left out in its entirety?
I'll seek advice from administration, sorry.
Through the presiding member, Mr Spartellis.
Yep. Through the chair, that was to maintain consistency with the way that we've approached the consultation in the past, including last year.
Okay. All right, I'll speak to it then. It doesn't, quite frankly, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. It seems to me like 45% of our population is not in favour of this long-term financial plan. I'm certainly not in favour of this long-term financial plan, and I share their concerns. At my best guess, it's only 20% who are actually agree or strongly agree. And so our community does not support this long-term financial plan whatsoever. Now, for the neutral position to then be added to agree or strongly agree, I think that distorts it heavily. I think that the community is absolutely not in favour of this. And if you remove neutral, it'd be something like 66% of people don't agree with our adopted long-term financial plan, and I would support their views. This is quite a concerning response from our community in relation to our long-term financial plan. They don't support our direction or the adopted direction of this council on many of those issues. And I'm also quite confused by the question, how would you rate the current condition of assets? Poor, quite poor, and then it suddenly goes to good, very good, or excellent. And the middle answer is good. There is no, I'm neutral to the way that we're going as well. It seems like the consultation is designed to promote a result. And I'm concerned very much about how our community has responded to this. Now, to then recommend that we should have no amendments to our long-term financial plan when 66% of those respondents don't support it is absolutely wild to me. Our community has given us a clear signal. After 3.5 years, we've developed a long-term financial plan that commits the City of Adelaide ratepayers to hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, and they're not in favour of it. And to simply kind of wash over it and move on from this in a council meeting where we haven't had the opportunity to workshop, where we hadn't had the opportunity to ask the staff about the outcomes, where we haven't been able to discuss the consultation, I think is extremely strange. Normally these things would come back to the governance committee, and I can't understand why they wouldn't in this case. Now, normally this consultation would come back to the committee, but instead here it is at council with a recommendation that we do nothing because neutral has been added to agree or strongly agree. To me, our community strongly rejects our long-term financial plan. I think that's very clear on the data and the evidence that's in front of you. And of course, everyone here is very data-orientated. They don't support at all our proposal on the funding replacement for our significant assets. There's hundreds of $millions there. And they don't support how our funds are managed. There is a significant divergence of what this council understands. And I think that it strongly supports, and this consultation strongly supports, an amendment seriously to our long-term financial plan with a complete rethink, because I don't think the City of Adelaide ratepayers want to be committed to the debt that this council is on. We reach our prudential borrowing limit in just a few years. It's extremely concerning.
Point of order, Chair. That information is not correct. We have not reached our prudential borrowing limit at all.
I'm sorry, perhaps you need a hearing aid. I said that the council...
Councillor, that last comment was not appropriate.
Well, he's clearly not listening.
No, Councillor, I'd ask you to retract that comment. That was really below the belt.
I retract the comment. Perhaps Councillor Martin does not need a hearing aid. But what I did say, and if I can clarify...
Chair, look, this is just offensive nonsense. He says perhaps, in response to your request to retract, he says perhaps he does not need a
Well, I retract it, but it's not what I said.
It is just appalling behaviour. It began at the very beginning of this meeting when he challenged you about your decision to not hear...
How dare I? How dare I?
Councillor, thank you. I appreciate what you said. Please sit down. Councillor Davis, I would ask you to genuinely retract your early comment and not use wisecracks to get around it. Thank you.
And I'd ask you to retract it, and I'd ask you to reprimand Councillor Martin for misrepresenting and failing to listen to the debate in this chamber as an obligation under the Local Government Act, which he clearly has not done. Because this council...
Point of order,
Councillor Martin.
Chair. What a personal explanation. Why have I breached the Local Government Act? I have not misrepresented anything, and in particular, I've not misrepresented the findings of the consultation results. I don't understand. It is just a baseless allegation of the kind that has been made about you during the course of this meeting, along with all the other insults. It's becoming really untenable.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. I hear your personal explanation. Councillor Davis,
Yeah,
I appreciate your enthusiasm to debate, but I do ask that you show the chamber some decorum, and please stick to the item.
My point of order is that Councillor Martin is not adhering to the Local Government Act because he's not participating in debate. He's misconstruing things that I've said. I said that this council's long-term financial plan approaches our prudential borrowing limit in a few years' time. I never said that we hit it now. It's ridiculous. Now, the reality is Councillor Martin is trying to interrupt me.
Councillor, I do not accept your point of order. Please move on with the debate.
Well, can I also ask members not to continually interrupt? Otherwise, I'll just do the same to you. The reality is that our community does not support this long-term financial plan. They don't support your tactic as well to shut down debate in this chamber. They really don't, because they want to see outcomes driven here. They don't want to see your petty political games. And this council is committed to hundreds of millions of dollars of debt, and they don't support it. So we need to go back and review this long-term financial plan. I've been warning you for 3.5 years that this course of action that this council has set us on is dangerous and it will not be supported. So please send it back to the committee so that we can properly debate this matter.
Councillor Kouros, you're a seconder. Would any of the members like to talk?
I'd like to ask a question of the administration. Was it the intention of the administration, when the matter comes back to the Finance and Governance Committee, to represent the consultation report as part of the package for discussion?
Through the presiding member, consistent with our processes in presenting only consultation results, this report has come to Council in advance of the committee's consideration of adoption of the long-term financial plan at committee next week.
Yeah, look, I would like to speak, Chair. I mean, look, I'm at a loss to understand what it is that the councillor is seeking to achieve by representing this to committee. Doesn't change the result at all.
I have a point of order.
Davis, you have a point of order?
Councillor Martin.
Councillor Martin, will you sit down for a second while I hear his point of order?
Councillor Martin is misrepresenting the motion. It's the current motion, if you read his reports, recommends that there will be no changes going back to the City Finance and Governance Committee. This motion, however, represents the consultation without that line, and so it removes the fact that no changes, based on the feedback received, no changes to financial projections are recommended to the City and Finance Governance. I would like to keep that debate open. Councillor Martin is clearly misrepresenting the motion, and I suggest he reads his report.
Councillor, I do not accept that point of order. I do not believe Councillor Martin is representing...
And look, Acting Lord Mayor, I think it's a wise thing to not accept the argument that's been put to you. This is simply a recommendation from the administration. The administration says it's not recommending any changes, but the matter comes to the Council Finance and Governance Committee and subsequently goes to the Council meeting, where it's open to everyone to move an amendment, just as Councillor Davis constantly moves amendments. We are being asked to accept the results of the consultation, which don't change between now and next week. It's already in. And secondly, we're being asked to accept that the administration, as a consequence of this, does not recommend a change. It doesn't say in any way that we need to somehow enshrine in a motion that this needs to be represented and that there's some injustice. The processes of Council apply. The processes are that matters are presented to us, they then come back to committee, committee considers, committee makes recommendations, recommendations go to Council.
Councillor Davis, you have a point of order?
Yeah, that's just materially untrue. This is going back to committee with the recommendation that there are no changes. The reason why it's coming to this council, not gone to committee first, is so that we can't debate those changes. That's the whole point of this motion. Why has it not come to the committee in the first instance? Why has it come to council then?
Chair, look...
hang on one second.
Through the presiding member, there's no limitation on committee on the 18th to considering amendments to a draft long-term financial plan that is being recommended for adoption. The report before the council meeting simply notes that due to the lack of substantive alternative proposals through the feedback, it's not proposed to make any changes to the projections. That's a matter for the committee on the 18th and the council on the 25th.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. And there we are. I mean, I just have this sinking feeling that my time is being wasted by something completely unnecessary. Look, I'm being interrupted again, Acting Lord Mayor. It goes on and on. When will it stop?
Councillor Davis. I've named you several times now. I'm talking right at this moment from the chair. I do ask that you do show some decorum to the chamber. If Councillor Martin or any other councillor starts heckling and interrupting other people, I will also stop them from doing so. I please ask you to show the chamber some decorum. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. Look, members, the motion is clear. The action of each and every member of this council is understood by most people. That is to say, you can have a say on the 18th and subsequently at the council meeting. It's an amendment for the sake of an amendment. It deserves to be voted down.
Councillor Couros.
I think what Councillor Davis is trying to say here, and what is failing, what I think that some people are not listening to, is the fact that we have got feedback here from our ratepayers, and we've got some serious things that we need to unpack. And I think the words that say in point 2 notes that based on the feedback received, no changes to the financial projections, meaning that, hey, thank you for your feedback, thanks for participating, thanks for taking your time of energy, but noting that based on your feedback, we're going to make no changes. Maybe that wording needs to be changed. If the idea is to accept the consultation results through this chamber tonight, and this is going to be presented at the City and Finance for further discussions, would it be amendable to the mover to have that removed? Because it's sending a message to our ratepayers that we're not doing anything with your feedback. Maybe we just need to say we acknowledge, thank you, let's accept the feedback in this chamber, and it's going to be directed to the City Finance Governance Committee on the 18th of November, rather than saying thanks for the feedback but no changes. Can we amend it, point 2, to not say those words?
Councillor Couros, the problem we've got right now is we're actually dealing with Councillor Davis's amendment, not the original motion. So we can't go back and amend the original motion when we're dealing with the amendment.
So then
she can vary the amendment.
Sorry?
But you can't. But you do have the ability, if the amendment fails, you have the ability to amend the original, vary the original motion.
I've spoken to this one as a seconder. Can't I vary the motion? I can't vary it.
You can't vary the original motion because we're now on the amendment. If the amendment fails,
okay. Well, then what I flag that if the amendment fails, I'll make that amendment, because I understand what Councillor Davis is trying to say is that we have got ratepayers that have spent the time to actually give their feedback. There is some really good feedback in this consultation that we need to take into account and we need to unpack. If it's coming into the Finance Committee for more discussion, which I'm sure which is the process, then we can talk about it there. But I think those words in point 2 are just too strong. It's kind of like saying thanks, but no thanks. But how about thanks, and we'll take it into consideration at the committee.
Councillor Stephen-Tripp.
Just a question of the amendment or the variation here is voted down. We go back to the substantive motion. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Excellent. I'll hold off my comments till then. Thank you.
Councillor Giles.
I've just had another look at the consultation report. I think that I'm a bit worried that the councillor might be looking for statistics to back his own argument rather than actually refer to the report itself, because 31 people responded to this consultation, and when you look at the most important question, which is about the bridge and the weir and what approach we should take when we're looking at the bridge and the weir, 8 people said that they wanted us to do that through borrowing. 0 said a rate increase, and 14 said a combination of the two. Now, I think that sort of data, when you get back from a consultation, shows exactly what this report says, which is that there's no huge call for anything in particular, and their views are mixed, but essentially, overall, those people who think that the way forward is the way that we should go win the day. I mean, if you're going to take your whole consultation process and make major changes to the process that we've been through so far, which is one that is very thorough and has been dealt with over years now, you don't listen to 31 people and change your whole strategy on the basis of 31 people, regardless of how clever and involved those 31 people are. You might want to talk to the 31 people about what they think, which we've done, but there's no community outrage about this long-term financial plan, and I think we need to reflect that in our deliberations.
Thank you. Would any of the members like to speak to this amendment? Councillor Marr.
Just a question to clarify. This amendment that I can see on the screen now replaces both parts 1 and part 2, that of the original motion?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that your intent, Councillor Davis?
Yeah,
okay.
Just that the consultation goes back.
Thank you, that was all.
Any of the members like to speak? Councillor Noon.
I just see this as a bit of a moot point, because I actually think that it is just in the wording. This is going to go back to committee and we are going to discuss it. I do actually agree with Councillor Couros. It just needs a bit of tidying up. So I'm not going to support the amendment, but I welcome Councillor Couros tidying up of the original substantive motion.
Councillor Davis, would you like to sum up your amendment?
Sure, I'll take it. All it does is it removes the recommendation that there aren't any changes. So this council is recommending to committee that there are no changes based on the consultation. Now, consultation is consultation. If we want to reject the consultation, not listen to anything that our ratepayers have to say, then so be it. I guess that's the council that we're in. What I'm asking for is this to be represented to the committee on the 18th of November. Is that such a crying shame? What I would like to do is remove that we make a recommendation that there's no changes to the long-term financial plan where we can properly discuss it and go through it. Our community has rejected this long-term financial plan. That is the consultation process that we have run. This council has run a consultation process and they have rejected this long-term financial plan. And if you want to run the numbers... Oh, sorry, Phil Martin would like to interrupt me again. Go ahead.
Councillor Martin has not indicated to the chair or used a microphone to interrupt.
Sitting there with a button. I'm sure he's got some point of order up his sleeve.
Councillor, please proceed with your point.
The reality is that our community has overwhelmingly rejected this long-term financial plan. Now, this has gone out to hundreds and hundreds of people, and this has been the result from people who care to respond. Now, if you say a small number of people, this number of people is we won't listen to them. The reality is our community does not support the current financial direction of this council. So I would like to go back to the committee without... And that's what this does. It all does takes this report and pushes it back to the 18th of committee without a recommendation from the administration based on the fact that they've included neutral with strongly and strongly agree, or agree and strongly agree, and come out with a fresh slate, and we can work together as a council to try and address some of the consultation feedback that's been received, rather than trying to come in with our minds made up that we just flat out won't listen to the overwhelming consultation who have rejected this long-term financial plan. It's not a difficult ask, is it? Not. All I'm asking is, if you read the motion, that it goes back and be represented to the committee. But apparently that is just so outrageous that we go without a recommendation from the administration so we can properly look at these numbers and properly look at the comments that have come through and make changes for the betterment of our city.
Members, all those in favour of the amendment? All those against? Councillor Cabada didn't vote. We'll retake the vote. All those in favour of the amendment? Members, let's get this right. One more time, shall we? All those in favour of the amendment? Yes, all those in favour of the amendment. All those opposed to the amendment? Amendment fails. We go back to the substantive. Now, just bear with me 1 second. Now, Councillor Couros, you have spoken already. However, we're going to work through this. I'll seek leave of the meeting to allow you to reframe, re-put your variation, which another member who has not yet spoken could then vary.
Can I move an amendment?
And you know what it is without us having to redo it?
I'll second that one.
I was going to, as a procedure, I'm going to seek leave of the meeting for Councillor Couros to then speak her variation. So, seeking leave of the meeting. No, but you can inform. I'm going to seek advice from government. Okay, with leave of the meeting, Councillor Couros, if we get leave of the meeting shortly, you can then give governance and administration your variation, but you cannot speak to it. We then carry on with the council process. So I seek leave of the meeting to allow Councillor Couros to suggest a variation. All those in favour? Yeah. All those in favour? All those against? That passed. Councillor Couros, please suggest your variation.
I'm going to need help from the CEO on this one, please.
Through the presiding member, understanding what has previously been said, if we delete the words, leave notes,
yep.
Delete the words that, based on the feedback received, no changes to the financial projections are recommended.
Yep.
Notes.
So,
notes. Leave the that. Sorry. Leave the that.
Yep.
And recommended to. And the second arm of the motion now reads, notes that the long-term financial plan will be presented to.
Yep. Yes, thank you.
Do the mover and a seconder of the motion agree to that? Oh, we're not voting. The mover was Councillor Stephen-Church. Do you support the variation?
Can I just clarify grammatically that doesn't look correct at the moment? It says notes that recommended to the. There's.
Recommended to should be deleted. Yeah. Notes that the
feedback.
The long-term.
There's no reference to feedback, Councillor Davis.
Yeah,
so it says notes that the. Yep. Okay, I'm happy with that.
Okay, that was the original motion was moved by Councillor Stephen-Church, seconded by Councillor Giles. Are you both happy with this variation? Yes. Yep. Okay, fantastic. Would any members who haven't spoken already to the original item, not the variation, would like to, the amendment earlier, would like to speak? Councillor Noon.
I just reiterate that this is just saying the same thing, but it's just less ambiguous. And it's actually just saying that we've received the consultation, we're sending it back to committee, committee can unpack all the outcomes in the report, and then whatever that looks like, it goes to council. It's pretty, it spells it out quite without that ambiguity. Thank you.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, thank you, CEO. That's exactly what I had in my head in terms of an amendment. Just a variation, though. I think you've got an extra that in there after plan. So notes that the long-term financial plan will be presented. Yeah, excellent. Just to echo what Councillor Noon just said, I think this just tidies it up. It makes it very clear it's coming back to us again to talk about it, make a decision based on the recommendation. and that'll be really good to unpack some of the feedback we have heard. I don't agree with the sentiment that hundreds of the community have said they don't support this, when we know that we received 31 surveys and 41% of them did not agree, which is 14 people. So it'll be really good to actually talk about this in committee and go from there.
Okay, members. Councillor Stephen Tritt, you moved the item. Would you like to sum up?
I'd love to sum up, Acting Lord Mayor. And in beginning to sum up, I'd just like to briefly reflect on some of what we've heard tonight here. We've heard that the majority of our community doesn't support this draft long-term financial plan. We've heard that 45% of our community, so I'm not quite sure what stat it is, 45% of our community doesn't support the long-term financial plan. But how about we have a look at how statistics are actually calculated? How about we check out that? 29,000 residents live here in the city. 11,000 newsletters were sent out to advise our community about this. 9,500 direct emails were sent out. 800 people visited the website to have a look at this. 31 people responded to the survey, and as Councillor Freeman said, 14 provided feedback that they disagreed. So I don't quite know how you get the majority of our community isn't supporting this, or 45% of the community doesn't support it. The facts do not line up with that. In fact, the facts are quite to the contrary, and I think building on what Councillor Giles has said, is that there's a suggestion here that we haven't had an overwhelming negative response. However, I do want to thank all of those people who did provide feedback, because we are duty-bound to listen to the feedback that's been provided. I don't know how many people, or how many members though, have actually taken the opportunity to read the feedback. I imagine most of us have. I certainly have, and I'd just like to share with you some of the feedback, because you could be forgiven for believing, from what you heard earlier on, that all of the feedback was perhaps negative. But in fact, we've actually had some very interesting pieces of feedback, which I think many members here in the chamber would actually agree with. So let's take a look at some of this. People responding to the survey want us to manage pressure on the rates. Absolutely. I don't think there's a single councillor here who doesn't want to manage pressure on rates. We've committed to only increasing rates above CPI where it's required to hit 100% asset renewal funds. So we've collectively agreed we want to manage pressure on rates. Will the current approach repeat the past? Absolutely valid question that someone's raised. Very clearly, for example, in relation to asset renewal, we are committed to getting back to 100%. So I'd suggest no, that we're not going to repeat the past, and that's absolutely backed up with the SCOSA's finding in terms of how we're performing. Some of the feedback has been we should be seeking more state and federal funding. What do you know? That's something that I think every single one of us around this chamber has been active on. We want to get greater efficiency, tick. There's been challenges here. Are the costs too low? Are our costs too low? Are we not spending enough money on heritage, flood and climate challenges? There's been questions around the performance downgrades. There's a particular comment here that ratepayers shouldn't fund once-in-a-generation infrastructure alone without state, federal contribution or performance oversight. Again, members, I think we would agree with that. What I see here is feedback from 14 people disagreeing with the long-term financial plan, many of whom would be making absolutely valid points, all points that we're aware of, and I think we would largely agree with. Members, I think the thing that this
Councillor, do you seek an extension?
I would love to seek an extension.
Members?
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor.
Yep, passed. Carry on, Councillor.
Acting Lord Mayor, I have one concern about the discussion I've heard here tonight, and that is that it has become a massive distraction from the key message. And the key message here is that this is the best long-term financial plan we've had in this term of council. I'm not talking about previous terms of councils. We recognised when we arrived as a collective that we had work to do. I think everyone agreed we had work to do. Sorry.
Councillor Couros, can you please not interrupt the councillor while he's speaking?
We agreed collectively that there was work to be done. This is a plan which leaves us in a much better position regarding our weir and the bridge. This is something that we should be celebrating and recognising, one and all, recognising significant steps forward in terms of infrastructure, maintenance costs in the future, one and all recognising that we are making significant progress towards our asset renewal funding ratio, and one and all recognising that there still remain challenges and none of us shy away from that. But I'd certainly urge all members to support this, particularly as we go through and hear some of the further feedback at the Special Finance and Governance Committee meeting.
Point of order, Chair.
Councillor, you can make a point of order, but the member has summed up. So.
Well, I'm just saying, is the discussions tonight going to be talking about the motions, or are we going to keep on veering off from what the motions were? So it was about the consultation, not about the long-term
Councillor,
and I'm just pointing out, as acting Lord Mayor, that you did not pull that up in the discussion.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor. I have noted them. This is my first time in the chair properly, but I do note that the councillor has summed up. So we will now move to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you, members. Now, members, Lord Mayor's report, or in this case, Acting Lord Mayor's report. As we know, the Right Honourable Lord Mayor Dr. Jane Lomax-Smith is busy representing the city, the council, and indeed the state in Belém, South America. And in her absence, I've taken up the role as acting Lord Mayor. As many of you know, unfortunately, I've actually been quite unwell with the flu for the last week, so it's a very, very short Lord Mayor's report. And so today was my first day back on my feet, and I was very honoured and privileged to represent the Lord Mayor and the City of Adelaide at a very solemn and moving ceremony for Remembrance Day at the National War Memorial on North Terrace, and it was a very dignified event. I think you know, with a lot of representatives from government and from the community there as well, and it was probably one of the most eye-opening experiences I've had in quite some time. Now, I do really appreciate that opportunity that I had, so thank you. So I will seek a move and a seconder for my very brief report. Councillor Martin, Councillor Noon. Any comments on that? All good? No? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, members. We'll now move on to item 16, Councillors' Reports. And I just want to make a quick comment. The Code of Practice for Council Meeting Procedures provides at section 226 that the purpose of council reports is to 1, inform on activities and functions that council members have attended on behalf of the Lord Mayor, 2, provide a summary of council members' attendance at meetings, and 3, provide an opportunity for council members to table reports on activities undertaken on boards and committees where they are representing council. Any members who wish to speak on issues unrelated to activities or functions undertaken in their capacity as a council member should seek leave the meeting to give a personal explanation. Just for that clarification, is there any reports from members? Councillor Giles.
I just report to the council that I represented the Lord Mayor at Indofest on Sunday. Indofest is a celebration of Indonesian culture and community in South Australia. In particular, I just wanted to draw attention to council about the growing number of Indonesian students that are now in our city attending university because the government has increased that proportion of our immigration to include students from countries that are neighbouring to us in the Southeast Asian and Pacific region. And also there has been an increase in Indonesian working for holiday visas being allocated as well. I think we note this when we're walking around the city, the increase of very nice Indonesian restaurants, including one across the road. And I would urge everybody to get out there and support the Indonesian community.
Thank you, Councillor Giles. Councillor Noon.
I too would like to say that I represented the Lord Mayor today at the annual Remembrance Day service down at the West End Cemetery. The ceremony was quite moving because it was amongst the final resting place of 4,000 plus return service personnel, which was a real reality check because these are the people that gave their lives so that we can enjoy the wonderful life that we live today, or most of us. So it was a very moving ceremony, and I'm really happy that I put up my hand to actually represent the council on the Royal South Australian Regiment. and the first meeting is actually this Thursday, and there's only 4 in the whole year, so it's a very limited amount of time that someone gives to this sector when they've given so much to us. I'd also like to briefly say that I actually went to the pageant on the weekend, and it was the most amazing day. I am a Christmas tragic, but I would just want to say a big thank you to Joe, Poldiak, the team, everybody in the council that assisted in making the day what it was, which was one of the best pageants that I have ever attended. Thank you.
Any other councillors' reports? Councillor Marr?
Thank you. Just a very short one from me. On the 22nd, oh no, that's wrong. On the 29th, sorry, I had the best experience of my time as councillor so far, hosting a school tour of Town Hall. I'm gracious to the admin team that helped me put that one together. And I would encourage other councillors, if they get the opportunity, to take it up, because it is quite fun, if you can. Sorry? No, that was just in capacity as a councillor.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I seek a seconder and mover, I also just want to, I neglected in my Lord Mayor's report to actually thank all the elected members who stepped up over the last week during my illness to represent the Lord Mayor and the City of Adelaide at various functions. So thank you all for your time. Now seek a mover and a seconder for this. Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by flurry of hands, Councillor Davis. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, member. Okay, item 17.1, motions on notice. Councillor Noon. Hang 1 second.
Yeah,
Councillor Martin.
Before we go any further, Acting Lord Mayor, I again declare a material conflict of interest. For the reasons previously stated, I will leave the room for the discussion and the vote.
I'll seek a seconder to Councillor Noon's motion.
Can I just ask a quick question?
I need to seek a seconder before we go into questions, but happy for you to ask a question. I do seek a seconder.
Well, I guess the point of order then.
I would seek a seconder before we do anything else in the meeting. Councillor Couros has seconded. Now, before I proceed, Councillor Davis has a point of order.
Yeah, look, I just wanted to make sure that, so there was a motion passed on the 28th of October, which says it notes, I think in particular, that further investigations will be undertaking during detailed design to respond to community feedback, including provision of safe and convenient micromobility and convenient access to an egress from off-street car parking. I just wanted to make sure that this motion doesn't vary at all that previously adopted motion, otherwise it would need to be a rescission motion. So I just want to make sure that they're not incompatible and that this motion does not in any way vary a previously adopted motion of council.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll seek advice from the administration on that matter.
Through the presiding member, I'll just need to revisit the minutes of the 28th, if you can bear with me.
Yep.
So, at its meeting on the 28th of October, Council resolved at Part 4 of the Gouger Street Revitalisation Project item, requests administration provide a briefing workshop at the meeting of the Infrastructure and Public Works Committee on 18 November 2025 to explore the feasibility of further design amendments. The wording of the motion before you.
Is that right? No, that was point 4 was an inclusion.
Members, just hold back on conversation while the CEO provides his advice, please.
There was one.
Is not inconsistent with the motion carried by Council on the 28th of October.
And you've seen points 1, 2 and 3 as well, yeah? They're not inconsistent?
I was referring only to point 4.
Yeah, I think there was a point 2 which talked about the micro-mobility access, convenient access and egress. Just in point 2 of that motion as well?
It's a further point.
Of the original motion on passing the 28th
All
of October.
aspects of the motion on the 28th of October are encompassed in the words of part 4 of this. Apart from the note, the noting is new information presented for consideration by Council.
Sorry,
Would you like...
can I please assist? On the 28th of October, the motion point 2, was item 12.2, says, notes that further investigations will be undertaken during detailed design to respond to community feedback, including provision of safe and convenient mobility access for people wheeling and scooting, and then point 2, convenient access to and egress off the street, car park, including Mill Street and associated turning movements. I just want to make sure that that point 2, because point 4 put it back to the committee, point 2 was about that further design work that the council wanted to note. And I just want to make sure this motion isn't inconsistent with the work that the council has requested.
Through the presiding member, I can absolutely confirm that the direction provided in the 28th of October meeting regarding micro mobility will be addressed as part of what's presented to the IPW committee on the 18th.
Okay, Councillor Nunes, is your motion. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davis and the CEO, because when I actually developed this motion, I took all of that into consideration. After the meeting of the 28th of November, I was contacted by stakeholders, project stakeholders, who were concerned that this had the ability to perhaps disrupt timelines, scope, budget. And so this motion is more to give people, stakeholders, a peace of mind that even though, and I was absolutely wanting to sort of say, yes, the committee, the workshop will still go ahead. Yes, it will be, you know, there will be discussion around other aspects, design aspects, etc. But that anything that comes out of that committee should only be perhaps minor works if they're accepted in this particular project and ensures that it still will meet the timelines, the scope and the budget. That doesn't mean to say that that the workshop doesn't have outcomes that may actually be larger projects, but nothing should disrupt the timelines of this project. It is really important that we deliver on time. The project is already 70% completed, so some of this maybe the larger issues that could be discussed at this workshop maybe should have been actually raised during that consultation process. But at the end of the day, it is 70% completed. Yes, there is a workshop that's going to be held that the members can discuss further design, minor design projects that can be put to the, amendments that can be put to the administration to see if they're still possible to be achieved, ensuring again that we achieve the timelines, the scope and the budget that's already been agreed to. So this predominantly is very much for the stakeholders of this project and for administration to feel comfortable that the delivery of this project will be done on time. There is so much happening in 2026 and we can't afford that disruption with everything else that's happening. And if we get COP and there's all sorts of things that curveballs that I think will be thrown at us, and I think it's really important to stay on track. So I don't want this derailed, and neither do the stakeholders that are involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Couros, you seconded? No, Councillor Davis.
Just something occurred to me. When we say design, that's not detailed design. That's the quick and that's kind of the mud map of generally what it looks like. Detailed design then happens next, right? Or is this detailed design?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Presiding member, Mr. McCready.
The presiding member, where we're at is actually 70% detailed design.
Detailed design,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Well, look, in that case, it's probably not going to change very much, to be quite honest with you. But perhaps we could look at a staged approach. I agree with the motion, but perhaps there are things that we would like to change if we had ideas coming sooner. I did, speak, for example, to the East End, some of the East End traders last week, and something they mentioned was, having a flat single kind of laneway without having the gutters there would actually improve that area and that precinct quite significantly. And I think the same thing would be approved here. So potentially, as we do the detailed design, we could give thought to potentially making it a level footpath or including some of the design elements that we might raise on the 19th of November. I agree that we should coincide with it, that we shouldn't disrupt it, but I think perhaps we could leave it open to including in that design other features that in future we might want to include in it, such as a level kind of main, like a Rundle Mall type situation, which I think would then massively uplift the precinct. Sorry I didn't come up, didn't have this brainwave sooner. I just kind of looked at it and went, so why don't we just make it one lane? These things kind of happen, but I agree with Councillor Noon, we don't want to disrupt the time frame, but at the same time perhaps we can look at a stage 2 5 years down the track.
Councillor Couros.
I rise in support of this motion, and purely because, as Councillor Noon has said, is that we have stakeholders that are on the street that know this is 70% of a detailed design. So the motion that we had before, in which we were looking at possibly tweaking it, suggested that we're going to go to a redesign. And what this motion does before us is that reaffirms to the public that we've got the 70% detailed design. We are going to have another chat in regards to tweaking it. We're going to be looking at all options and what they mean. And if Councillor Davis wants to look at a plaza, what does that mean and what sort of delay it does? And that's what that discussion is going to enable on the 18th of November. But it's just a reaffirm to our stakeholders on the street that have participated, been consulted on, that have participated with the consultation, that not all are 100% happy, and that's what the 18th of November will allow for some tweaks, but to say that we are going to push forward with what we have before us, the 70%. Is already all go, except for some maybe modifications that some stakeholders are looking for. That's why.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any other councillor like to speak before I go back to the mover? Councillor Marr and then Councillor Freeman.
First, a question. Through you, what is the administration's interpretation of the phrase "that are not material to project delivery"?
Through the presiding member, not material to project delivery will be interpreted by your administration as anything that materially impacts on the existing timeline.
So it is timeline-based rather than design-based. Thank you. I think this is unnecessary. I support it. I understand what it is here for. But I think this was already covered in the last council meeting. I think we can just move on from this one and go to a vote. Go on to the next item.
Councillor Freeman.
Thank you, Chair. As the move of the original amendment for Goodger Street to include some consideration of micromobility and Mill Street specifically, I do support this. I'm comfortable with the wording. In hindsight, maybe some of this wording should have been in that original amendment, because these works are time critical, in particular the works in association with the Adelaide Central Market redevelopment. I think that the wording we've got proposed here does allow flexibility to tweak some things within the parameters that we have available, whilst also giving reassurance to stakeholders that we're still on track. Maybe some of those tweaks are actually delivered in the future, or maybe some of them are delivered within the delivery program we're already aware of, which I assume will be delivered in stages. We're not going to close all of Goodger Street, or maybe we are. We don't know that yet. Hopefully not. We're trying to minimise impact to traders. So I think that this wording allows for that flexibility and potential improvements in accordance with what the original amendment said.
Thank you, Councillor. Before I pass back to the mover, I'll just say a few comments myself. I also support this. Not that it will come. I don't think it should come to the chair. I believe. I don't want to speak on behalf of any of the elected members, but I broadly believe that no elected member wants to delay this project, and that certainly wasn't any intention of the amendment, as my understanding, because when I supported it, to delay. But I think this is important to actually provide that reassurance to stakeholders, and I certainly commend Councillor Noon and Councillor Couros for seconding to help provide that important reassurance to stakeholders. And just another point as well, in regards to what Councillor Davis said. In another world, in another lifetime, we could have worked together on a wonderful shared access flat road if only it had been brought forward as a suggestion 24 months ago. I think it's a great idea, but it's just come too late to the table, unfortunately. And as we know, this timeline is crucial for this development. So it is a shame, but I'm looking forward, very much forward to this this revitalisation development. So with that, back to the mover. Summed up, members, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, members. Can we get Councillor Martin back in? Okay, item 17.2, Councillor Martin. And we'll seek a seconder for your motion. Councillor Couros.
Thank you, Chair. That was quite a long while. I missed you all terribly. Even you, Henry. Look, I want to thank the administration for their advice from paragraphs 5 to 9 on what would or would not be desirable ways to deal with the problem. However, the motion doesn't seek solutions. I'm not actually asking for any solution. I'm just seeking confirmation from the administration that there might be a problem through monitoring, which will expose whether or not, as some locals believe, there is a serious threat to safety. It is their view, and Acting Lord Mayor, I don't like using these words, but they believe that in the street that has been identified, a rat run has developed, whereby motorists seek to avoid congestion at the lights at the intersection of Tint and O'Connell Streets, to drive at breakneck speed into George Street, down Lorman and into Tint Street. They are the hoon drivers, to which Councillor Couros has referred to on many occasions in this councillor. Now, I accept that just every councillor in this room could name a road or a laneway where the same thing is going on and about which they have had complaints. But this is concerning because, in this case, Lorman Street concludes at a footpath. That is to say, the road goes onto the footpath, there's no indent, there's no rise in the footpath, and there is no sign at all to alert drivers coming south that they're about to encounter pedestrians. And yet it is the path that is used every morning and every evening by primary school children attending the North Adelaide Primary School as they go to school. Mercifully, there are convex mirrors on the roadway attached to Stobie poles to provide some image of what's ahead, but I've tested it myself. The mirrors are so far forward that you actually can't see the content of the mirrors until your car bonnet is on the footpath, which is not entirely satisfactory. So look, it is, I'm being told by residents and people who use that footpath regularly, that it is exacerbated by what they perceive to be increasing traffic congestion. So all I'm asking for is the administration to look into it. It may be they will come back and say, look, it's not a problem on the scale that you're being led to believe, or it is a problem and we can fix it with a simple sign, a stop sign, a give way sign, or some other method. My mind is entirely open. I'm simply asking that there be an investigation.
Councillor, would you like an extension?
A report. No, I'm satisfied.
No,
Thank you.
Councillor Couros.
I do agree about the mirrors. That needs to be looked at. It is very deceptive. But this is all going back to hoon driving. I keep going on about it, and it is a problem in North Adelaide. They do go down that laneway very fast, down that street. It's a loop for them. I can tell you where all the loops are in North Adelaide, but I won't bore you with it. I welcome this, and I welcome even any other streets that they are hoon driving down, because we have a problem in North Adelaide. I've been going on about this. I have regular meetings with SAPOL in regards to it. I regularly speak with the residents in and around North Adelaide, not only where the Brom apartments are. I feel like it's not being heard. I welcome this motion. It is an issue and we need to have this addressed, and I don't know how, and we need some support.
Thank you, Councillor. Would any of our members like to make a comment on this item before I go back to the mover? Councillor Freeman.
Thanks. Just briefly, I know that hoon driving has come to council before, specifically in Adelaide, so I've got no doubt that that seems to be a recurring issue. That certainly needs to be addressed, so I'll support this motion as part of that. I did just want to comment on, I asked a question on notice a few weeks ago about the implementation of the integrated transport strategy, which I understand is coming back to us in February with an implementation plan, prioritised based on a number of factors. And I am interested in how safety is one of the criteria used to prioritise where we are actually addressing road issues in the city. So I don't know if I'm asking for an undertaking from administration, but I think as part of that report coming back to us in February, if we really could identify where are these hotspots we know about in the city. Gilbert Street is one. We had one crash recently, but the residents said this happens all the time. So it would be really good to have an understanding of that so we can work through it as a council on a priority basis.
Councillor Marr.
I support this. This mirrors a concern that I've raised individually with administration about some of the laneways around where I live in the city. So I support it. Although I have a thought I'd like to explore with the room, perhaps, about the concept of hoon driving. I don't know that they are hoons. I think this might just be an attitude issue with how people travel through our city in general. The issues that I see in my quarter of the city, we're not talking about souped up cars, sports cars, rear-wheel drive things, sliding around corners. We're talking about, you know, the everyday Toyota RAV4 driving at speed. So I really think maybe we can reframe this. I don't know if it's a hoon issue, whether it's a driving attitude issue in the city. And I think that'll be able to gather a bit more of a response from the community.
Any other members like to speak on this item? Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the ward councillors for supporting this motion and for bringing their view and their understanding of their community to this chamber, and I support them in their direction.
Okay, Councillor Martin, would you like to sum up? Members, all those in favour? Unanimous, once again. Thank you, members. Okay, we now go to motions without notice. I will go to Councillor Noon first because she's actually sent one through to the administration, and but Councillor Davis, I've got. Oh, you also. Okay. Well, Councillor Noon, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. I don't normally bring...
Sorry, I need to seek a seconder. Councillor Couros, seconded.
I don't normally bring motions without notice. It's not really my style, but there is a necessity to do this because we are running out of time. Look, I have been contacted by precinct presidents following their meeting with the CEO and other managers, I believe, on the 6th of November in relation to the motion that was carried at the council meeting on the 14th of October. This meeting was in confidence, and it was only for the people in the room, which were the precinct managers, but the CEO did give them authorisation to speak to the elected members about, what was discussed. Look, I won't go into the details of their feedback. Overall, it was good, but there are some issues which can be discussed when this comes back to committee. The concern is that while the chairs, presidents can represent their respective committees, they are not the sole decision makers. So they need time to consult with their committee. This is good governance. This means that, and these people represent their communities. That's what they're there for. In my view, it would not be good governance to accept this process. I totally understand how frustrating this is, and we want to progress it, but I don't believe there's any value in pushing it through this manner. And I must admit, it wasn't the intention of my motion originally. I probably didn't think it through properly. I just probably assumed that it would actually go back to the committees for discussion, and this would actually have to be in camera as well. So this motion is giving the presidents, chairs, the ability to go back to their committees to discuss this, to get a collective view. I think that's really important, and to come back. I mean, they might actually discuss it amongst themselves as well, the various precincts, because there is an appetite to actually work together, which is great. And at the end of the day, I think that we need to honour this, and also not only from the president's view, because they don't actually want to be the ones that actually make the call at the end of the day, and then they have to, down the track, maybe defend it to their committees. You need to bring people along for the ride, as we all know, because that's the best way to get people involved and to get those compromises and that collaboration. So I hope that this motion without notice is actually supported. I put in some dates there. I'm obviously flexible with those dates. I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I would actually like this to go to the meeting as per the original motion on the 9th of December, so that we can actually come to some conclusion, hopefully, by the end of the year, because that was what we all wanted. But if it's not doable, like I said, I think it's more important to actually really nut this out with all the players involved. So happy to discuss...
Councillor, are you seeking an extension?
No, I'm almost done. Happy to discuss
Councillor, I need you
alternative
to seek an
dates.
extension?
Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Couros, you seconded. Would you like to speak to Serge, right? I had Councillor Stephen Tritt next, and then Councillor Marr.
Acting Lord Mayor, I have a proposed amendment to item number 5. Would you like me to explain the rationale behind the proposed amendment? Thank you, Councillor Couros.
I will seek it. Sorry, that's been highlighted, and we will seek a seconder before you proceed.
I'm happy to explain the reason for it if needed to seek a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Freeman.
Happy to second it for the purpose of the debate.
Thank you, Councillor Freeman. In speaking to this, first, can I say thank you to Councillor Noon for bringing this forward, and I also understand that covers off on feedback Councillor Couros has received. I'm generally supportive of this. I think we've been at a point where the chairs have been engaged and we really want them to be able to discuss it with their committees. The only reason I've added in a slight variation, which is really around the timing, is I'm also conscious that there's confidential information that's contained within the process to date. And essentially what I'm suggesting is we give the administration a week to advise us on the best way forward for the precinct chairs to be able to have that discussion. I think if we were to support item 5 at the moment, personally I'm not sure exactly what information that would present and whether we're comfortable with all of that being presented. So this really buys administration a week to be able to come back to us to say what's their preference, if indeed the mood of the chamber is to proceed with this type of consultations. That's the rationale.
Councillor Freeman, as a seconder to the amendment, would you like to speak or reserve your right? Okay. I will Councillor Davis first on the amendment. Yep.
Yeah, I call for transparency. All of this should be released. The reason why this is kept confidential, correct me if I'm wrong, administration, is that it could possibly affect a single employee's job because they would move from one place to another, maybe. I don't know. I don't accept that this is confidential, which never should have been. This just needs to be released to the public in full. The only reason why I can see that it was held confidential for this long is because there was a political downside to releasing it. So I call for this entire thing, and maybe we come back on the 19th of November and really consider the confidentiality provision that's been, this shroud of secrecy that's been throughout this whole review. Why can't we just be open? Councillor Noon quite rightly thinks we should consult with the members of the precinct groups. Well, you can't do that if you're holding it confidential. But I think that puts the administration in a very sticky position because either it's confidential or either it's not. And all the reports that I've seen, none of them justify being in confidence. Not a single one of them. And all the discussions about this, not a single thing in there was confidential. Now, employees of the City of Adelaide move from place to place from time to time. And so I think the administration will be in a very difficult position in releasing this because I think they're going to have to admit that maybe it shouldn't have been in confidence from the beginning, or potentially they say, well, here's all the information we can release. But I'd like to know exactly what it is that's so confidential and so outrageous that we can't just tell the community precincts what's up. I can't see any reason why we would have confidentialities going forward or in the past, so let's get on with it. Just be honest with our community and end this shroud of secrecy that the City of Adelaide seemed to have adopted over the last 3 years.
Councillor Courage, you had a question on the amendment?
On the amendment, what Councillor Siebentrop is saying is for us to have an advice on just the chairs and the presidents, the conversation that we had, which was originally what admin were going to do. Is that right? This is what was originally proposed. So he's just saying exactly what was going to be the outcome anyway. Is that right? Asking administration.
Yeah.
Through the presiding member, I'll provide, in response to the question, I'll provide advice in relation to the amendment, not to enter the debate. But if that amendment's not workable in its current form, and we certainly would not be able to achieve the target dates set in parts 6 and 7 of the motion.
Asked the CEO, I asked, is that the mover of the amendment is requesting that you provide us with a report of what the precinct presidents and chairs have responded to you. Was that the intent anyway from administration in the first place?
That's not my reading of the amendment. You'd need to go.
No.
Councillor Stephen, would you like to give would you like to give a personal explanation to explain your
yes,
intention?
I'm happy to do that. So really the intent here...
Please stand, and Councillor Courage, you stood as well. That was my bad, sorry.
Must be sticky chairs here tonight. It's sometimes hard to stand up. Yeah, look, the pure intent here is, noting this has been in confidence, is to provide the administration with a week to be able to give us advice in the best way for precinct presidents and chairs to engage with their committee members. That's it. So rather than tonight just dropping the hammer, so to speak, and say it's game on as of tomorrow, it's giving administration a week to tell us what's the best way to go about this, noting there has been a confidential process up until now.
Through the presiding member, if I could assist, any advice administration provides to the committee would need to be ratified by Council on the 25th. That means the turnaround time for whatever engagement process is agreed and accepted by the Council would not enable us to achieve a report to a special City Finance and Governance on the 2nd of December and a recommendation to Council on the 9th.
Well, then why don't adjust the date?
Councillors, you have another question, Councillor Couros? Okay. Councillor Noon.
I'm not going to support the amendment because I actually think number 5 actually says that we trust the committees. At the end of the day, there's always a risk in council committees, boards, whatever, when you actually go into camera. They go into camera all the time and discuss confidential stuff. At the end of the day, we have to say that what the presidents have been informed of should actually go to the committee. There may be aspects that we haven't shared with some of the presidents because of the confidentiality of nature of this matter. But what has been already shared with the precinct presidents should go to the committee. We should stipulate, like I say in point 5, that it's in the strictest of confidence. We can actually get them to sign stuff. I've often done that with boards. At the end of the day, then we actually should trust that that committee will keep that information in camera, and at the end of the day, and the report comes back to us in camera. And so therefore we can keep these timelines. And why I said the 2nd of December is because we're already having a special something meeting. I can't remember what it was, but there is a special meeting on the 2nd of December, so we're all gathering anyway. So I think that it made perfectly good sense to bring it back on the 2nd of December. It gives the precincts a couple of weeks. It actually then allows us to meet our time frame on the 9th of December. But I think by dragging it out again, which is what this amendment says, is just not doing anyone any favours, to tell you the truth. And it's saying that we're not trusting people.
Members, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I will support this. And in doing so, and I'm going to provide an explanation about why I will support it, I have supported confidentiality in this process from the beginning. Not least because, if members recall, we wanted to delay any decision-making until the Central Ward members were elected and could speak on behalf of their constituents. Additionally, I am concerned about people being worried about their positions. I know of at least 3 positions that will be affected if certain changes proceed. They may not proceed, but if they proceed, that would be my expectation. But the problem...
Councillor Noon, point of order.
That even by saying that we're breaching confidentiality, I actually think that we have to be careful when we speak of positions of stop in this chamber.
I'll seek advice, Councillor Noon. Councillor Martin, you are on the edge there, so just be careful with what you say going forward.
I'll resile from that position. My remarks were speculative, not based on anything in particular. However, the point that I was about to make is that allowing precinct chairs, precinct committees, and each of those committees, understanding they include anywhere between 5 and 10 people, is now getting to a very large number of people. And I'm thinking we should take out an ad in the advertiser, because that would pretty much achieve the result in any case. I have now come to the view that this process is so loosey-goosey that an actual sharing of all of the information would be more appropriate. Now, I've had approaches from precinct presidents. Some of them are supportive, some of them are aghast, and some of them are dismayed that the information that they've been presented with, they believe, doesn't provide the full picture. doesn't tell them all of the information because the administration is unable to deal with all of the information because of confidentiality. We are now so tied up in confidentiality, I can't imagine how there's going to be a rational discussion among precinct groups. This is what we've unleashed, and now we need to fix it, and I think the proposal should all be put on the table, allowing not only committee presidents, committee members, but community members to understand it all. We are in this position because we went down this road. Now we're on the road. It would be my intention, if this is adopted on the 18th of November, to be moving that there be no confidentiality and that all parties are given the information, because there is so much speculation, so much misinformation and so much fear that was created by this process that we need to fix it.
Councillor Kouros.
Absolutely agree.
I'm sorry, could you please stand?
Sorry, I agree. To remove the confidentiality order, do you need to have it revoked in today's meeting, or is that in a separate motion? I'm just asking procedurally. I don't know. I've never removed a confidentiality order.
Let me seek advice, Councillor.
Thank you.
Through the presiding member, in answer to your question, removing confidence is a stroke of the pen under delegation by your CEO.
CEO, I just meant, do we need a motion for it? Okay.
Let's have a point of order then.
Councillor Davis, point of order.
I mean, the administration have repeatedly recommended to the chamber that this information involves the unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person living or dead.
Councillor, is this a point of order or a personal explanation?
Yeah, it's a point of order. And the administration is essentially suggesting that they could remove that confidentiality order. How could you possibly go against multiple recommendations to the committee that it would be so unreasonable that their information would be disclosed, and now at a stroke of a pen we're going to release it all?
Through the presiding member, I would point to two things: the elapse of time and the fact that this matter has been aerated in various levels of public debate for a long, long time, and we're probably at the point where, if you want advice, we'll bring that advice back, but you need to change the timelines for 6 and 7.
No, but my question, my point of order was, how could it possibly, just because someone's gone and talked about it doesn't mean, the administration has advised this chamber multiple times that it would involve the unreasonable disclosure of a person's personal information. But now we're just talking about releasing it, the whole thing. I mean, how does the administration, I think it should be released, it should never have been done. But why, how are we now just switching on a dime that this person's personal information is so precious that we couldn't release anything in the discussion, any reports whatsoever, because it was being so unreasonable? How is it now reasonable that their personal information be released?
Through the presiding member, I'd refer the council member to the resolution of the 14th of October that approved the sharing of presentation information with the exclusion of confidential content in confidence with the various precinct groups, presidents and chairs for their feedback. The matter before council tonight is a reality around the timeframes that presidents and chairs have suggested to some members they need to be able to provide the feedback and to engage with their broader committees. I've given advice about the workability of the amendment. If that amendment goes through, you'll make a decision on the 25th, and that impacts on the subsequent matters.
Okay, Councillor Freeman, you haven't spoken yet, and you seconded a motion.
Yes, thank you. So I guess a couple of things. First, I supported providing this information to the precinct groups because I think To empower them is to give them information. Knowledge is power, so I absolutely support that. And the feedback that I've received since we made that decision was that that was really welcome and really helpful for them to help with their precinct planning. So that said, what I am a bit uncomfortable with in this motion, as we've already talked about, is the dates. I guess the consultation period itself is far less than the 21 minimum days we would ordinarily require for any consultation, so it did feel very short. And Councillor Noon, I was going to ask you the question about the urgency around these compressed periods and the dates, and you've said it would be great to get it done before Christmas, but not essential. So I think for me, it does seem like it's really rapid. I support providing this information in the right way, but maybe not in accordance with the dates that we have here. And if this amendment does fail, just foreshadowing that I may amend this, am I allowed to do that as a seconder? Maybe someone else will want to do that, just to make sure that the dates are a bit more realistic, because I think there is a lot coming to council towards the end of the year. We have really important Main Street investments that we need to make decisions on. And I think that if this can wait a couple of weeks, I know the precinct groups are really, really asking for this, but I think a couple of extra weeks won't hurt.
And Councillor Freeman, just for clarification, this isn't a formal consultation process where we would go through those appropriate time periods, etc., etc. This is, my understanding is, an informal consultation.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess it's just the 21 days is suggested as an appropriate time frame to gather feedback, and I think approaching Christmas, everyone's really busy. But again, I'm not sure what conversations the precinct leads have had with Councillor Noon.
Thank you, Councillor. Now, Councillors, I remind you we are talking about the amendment. Would any of the members like to speak on the amendment? In that case, I'll go back to Councillor Siebentritt to sum up.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. Just start by recognising where we have common ground here. The common ground I see is that we broadly support, I think everyone in the chamber, the existence of precinct groups, and I think for any, whether it's a president, committee member or anyone interested in those groups, they should know that there's broad support. The second point is, it seems to be pretty clear to me, we're moving to a point of sharing more and more information here with those committees. So there's no question, it would seem to me that that's going forward. This is really then just coming down to a discussion around the timing at which that happens. I think buying ourselves an extra week is still useful. The reason for that is I've heard a variety of views around here tonight, one of which is we drop the hammer tonight and as of tomorrow it's game on. An alternate view would be that perhaps it's all up for going out for being freely available as of the next meeting. I think without putting words in your mouth, Councillor Martin, that's what I think I heard. So all I'm suggesting here is that we're all broadly headed in the right direction. This just buys us another week to be really clear as exactly what information is going out and in what form.
Members will now vote on this amendment. All those in favour? All those against? That amendment has passed and now becomes part of a substantive. And I have Councillor Marr next.
Thank you. I have some concerns with some portions of this motion as printed. I think we might need some assistance from admin regarding the dates in Part 6 and 7. So I might need to do that as a variation or potentially as an amendment. I'll take some advice on that, please.
Okay, we believe we can do it as a variation if you're willing to propose what that is.
I'll get to that in a moment.
Yep.
And my other concern is, in particular with Part 4, I think we've strayed from the good governance principles with this one quite a bit. So I would like to take this in parts and foreshadow that I won't support Part 4, but I will support a remedied rest of the motion with the fixed dates in 6 and 7.
Okay, so we'll go back to 6 and 7 and take your recommendation on around the date changes, and then after that we will then go back to the mover and a seconder to seek it be moved in parts.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And what would your suggestions be for the date changes, or are you seeking advice from administration?
I'm seeking advice. I think in terms of the dates, we can probably push it into the first council meeting of next year after the first CFG meeting of next year.
Through the presiding member, the first scheduled City Finance and Governance Committee meeting in 2026 is on the 17th of February, and that would result in a recommendation to Council on the 24th of February 2026.
I think I'd like to put that one as the variation to those dates. That would accommodate the 21-day consultation period.
It's certainly your right to suggest that variation, but I will ask the mover and the seconder if they'll support that variation. Variation not supported, Councillor Marr.
Can I move that as an amendment then?
You certainly can.
I'd like to move that as an amendment, as just discussed with 6 and 7.
Seconded by Councillor Martin. Give us a few moments to get the wording. Okay, Councillor Marr, you can speak to your amendment.
Thank you. As I just said, we've heard from the administration that given the previous amendment, the dates in the substantial motion would not be achievable. So I think we don't really have much choice but to amend those dates and proceed from there. I have nothing further to add.
Councillor Martin, you seconded the amendment?
Yes, thank you, and I will speak to it. I'm speaking to this amendment, not to the previous. Is that a correct interpretation?
Yes, my understanding is the only people who spoke to the original motion are Councillor Noon and Councillor Siebentrit. Everyone else spoke for the amendment and so can speak again in this amendment.
Now look, I want to make it clear that I don't have any criticism of the administration or the original decision to treat this matter confidentially. It made absolute sense, not least because there are 4 councillors in this room who knew nothing about it during the course of the last 6 months or so, 5 months, and it was only
Can I just have a point of order?
Councillor Davis, you have a point of order?
I'm just really concerned that the inference that this was kept confidential because we didn't have 4 ward councillors would mean that there was no order to keep it. It wasn't valid to keep it confidential, if that was the reason. I'm sure Councillor Martin means that it would involve the unreasonable disclosure of a person's personal information, not the fact that we didn't have 4 ward councillors present. I'm sure he means that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Martin, are you happy to proceed?
I'm not sure what part of the meeting regulations or indeed the behavioural code were part of that, but in any case, my point was that the rationale for the matter remaining confidential was that there were people to be elected who would have a view, and thankfully they've now participated in that. And furthermore, there was, as the CEO pointed out, the possibility
of... Point of order, actually.
Yeah,
Councillor Davis, point of order.
Under the Local Government Act, the fact that there were people going to be elected to a position was the reason for something being kept confidential is absolutely not a clause and a reason to keep something confidential.
Councillor, I'm not sure that's actually a point of order, though.
Councillor Martin has just said that this council has breached the Local Government Act if that's the rationale for keeping this confidential because 4 ward councillors were not elected.
Councillor Davis.
It's a big deal. That is a corruption allegation against the council. Straight up, that's bad.
Through the presiding member, the grounds for keeping this matter in confidence were consistent with the provisions of Section 90 of the Local Government Act, and the key reliance was on 2 provisions. One, the disclosure of personal information, and unreasonable disclosure of commercial information.
And indeed...
I have a point of order.
Councillor Carras, your point of order?
The reasons that Councillor Martin just gave in relation to the 4 councillors was discussed in confidence. It wasn't public information, so he's breached the confidentiality of the meeting. So I'm calling a point of order.
Well,
Councillor Martin, would you wait while I seek advice from governance before proceeding?
well, look, Acting Lord Mayor, I can
Apologies,
save
Councillor Martin,
you a lot.
apologies. I'm dealing with Councillor Carras's point of order to see if it's relevant and valid. The advice from the administration is that confidentiality has not been breached.
The grounds for maintaining a matter in confidence are a matter of public record.
Sure, as a CEO, but what I'm saying through you, Chair, is that the discussions in the meeting that were in confidence cannot be discussed out in the public. Is that correct? So the fact that Councillor Martin said that part of the reason of keeping it in confidence, as discussed in the meeting, was due to the fact that 4 councillors weren't present, isn't that the discussion meant to be in confidence, or is it only the grounds of? I'm putting that out there. I'm just not feeling that we're treading on shaky ground here.
Excuse me, Acting Lord Mayor. I am being accused of being corrupt by Councillor Davis. Is that correct? I am a corrupt person?
What I'm saying is that if this
councillors,
this is really important.
we need to settle. Forgive me, Councillor Martin, I actually genuinely did not hear that. So I will ask all councillors to please behave with decorum.
This is really important.
Do you have a point of order or a personal explanation?
If the reason for keeping...
Councillor, do you have a personal explanation?
Yes, thank you. If the reason for keeping this in confidence was because 4 members of this council were not yet elected, that is not a provision.
The advice that you have been given is that is not the case, and you've been given advice, Councillor, about why it has been kept in confidence.
If this council has voted that way, then that is straight up corruption and breach of the Local Government Act, and should be referred to the Ombudsman by anybody participating here.
Councillor, you have the full right to report anyone you wish to an external body.
Everyone has to report.
But I don't believe what you're saying is pertinent to the situation. So I'm going to proceed. I'm going to let Councillor Martin proceed. I will ask Councillor Martin to just be careful with what he's saying, and all councillors to be careful with what they're saying because of the confidentiality. But I think it's important not to derail the meeting. Councillor Martin.
Acting Lord Mayor, let me make it clear. My understanding was that there was an agreement about the way in which we would proceed with this. It was a way in which there was agreement. I am unable to say the extent of that agreement because of the confidentiality of the meeting. It was agreed also that it remain in confidence, and I have spoken to this on previous occasions for the reasons that the CEO has made clear. I am not behaving corruptly. What I am behaving as is someone who's utterly confused by this total mess that has emerged here in this council. We have decided to keep things confidential. We've decided we'll take it outside of council and tell some people. It's now proposed that we tell a few more. Take an ad in the Advertiser. Take an ad in the Advertiser. That would be much easier. We'd all be happier. Now, if we can stop this nonsense about corruption, this silliness that seems to be peripheral to every council meeting that I attend recently, can we just have a discussion about what's in the best interests of our stakeholders? Now, I think there's some broad agreement that there needs to be more information released. We are moving to that point by discussing it on the 18th of November. It is proposed sensibly by another councillor that that will change the timeframes so that there's a report to council in the new year. Anyone who argues against that and who says, oh no, we're not going to delay it any further, is saying we're going to consult with people more widely, but we're actually going to limit how much they can consult on. We're going to restrict them to 1 week or 10 days, and then we're going to rush to a decision on the 9th of December on a matter which has been in abeyance for years. Now, you understand why I am confused and why our ratepayers...
Seeking extension,
Yes, I
Councillor
would
Martin.
like extension.
All in favour? Yep.
You
Extension
will
granted.
understand why I am confused. Our ratepayers, our stakeholders are reeling. It's been going on too long. Let's have that discussion on the 18th of November. Take off the covers, no more secret squirrel, have the information out there and impose a reasonable time frame to allow people, including those groups of people who are volunteering, giving their time freely to the City of Adelaide to promote their business districts. Give them the time to have a reasonable thought about where we're going.
I have Councillor Kouros next.
From my understanding of this, on the 18th of November, we're just going to be talking about how we're going to engage with the committee members. We're not going to talk about how we're going to, is this in regards to how we're going to talk about how we're going to give them the information, how we're going to engage with them? Sorry, I'm very sorry. This is called kicking the can down the road. This is called I am not going to make a decision. I'm going to just soften this a bit. I'm just going to put it down here because I don't want to deal with it. The fact of the matter is that we have discussed this for too long, right? This is probably something that really should be taken out in the advertiser. In actual fact, the advertiser should be writing a story about it because it's the most craziest thing that we actually have prolonged on. I don't understand why this is so complicated. I don't understand why we're wrapping this up in secrecy. It is embarrassing, to say the least. And to say that we're going to take this until the 17th of February, right before we're discussing it, we'll be discussing right in the middle of the budget. What are we doing? This is just going round and round the merry-go-round. This is what we are doing. We're not solving the issue here. The issue is that we have a model here that we need to speak to our presidents and their committee members. They don't want to make a sole decision with the committee members. They want to have an open discussion. They want to have an open discussion with us in council. They want to just solve this right here and now. They don't want to listen to us going to have a secret squirrel meeting about how we're going to get advice in regards to engaging with our chairs, and then we're going to go and bring this in the 17th of February, and then we're going to have more of a discussion. Please, people, let's just move on. Let's be transparent. Let's be open and honest with our public and say, this is it, this is the model, this is what we're thinking of, what do you think, and what do you think we need to improve on, what do we need to change, and let's move on. Honestly, this is why people laugh at us as a council, because we just take so long to do something so simple.
I have Councillor Freeman next, and then Councillor Davis, and then Councillor Noon, and then Councillor Stephen-Tripp.
Thank you. Yeah, on the topic of timing here, so this amendment stipulates two things. One is the engagement itself, and then the other is bringing the feedback back for discussion about whether we're adjusting the preferred model for the precinct groups. So in terms of kicking the can down the road, what this amendment is actually doing is not precluding that consultation from happening this side of Christmas. If we support the decision that comes to committee first and then council the week after, we should, in theory, allow precincts to engage with their precinct groups on the 25th of November. Then, when we come back in February, it actually gives administration time to properly digest what was heard and reflect on that in the model. So I agree. I think sharing this information more broadly with the precincts is really urgent. I know that adding 2 weeks and kicking the can down isn't great, but it's 2 weeks. And then I do think that this timeline, at least for me, I'm more comfortable with because it gives us more time to respond to that feedback. So I support this.
Councillor Davis.
I'd just like to ask a question, something the CEO said previously. He said that the confidential information was removed when it was given as a briefing to the precinct chairs. In that case, that document is not confidential, and all the information therein should not have been held confidentially. Under what provision of the Local Government Act is the information provided to the precinct chairs, which has stripped out all these confidential matters, still being held in confidence?
Through the presiding member, Your administration has to work within the boundaries of the direction it's been given. Item 2, Part 2 of the motion of the 14th of October approves sharing the full presentation, omitting any confidential content, in confidence with the various precinct groups for their feedback. That resolution of council required, and there was some debate at the council meeting of the 14th of October about the exercise of discretion by your administration about what was confidential, fatally confidential, and what wasn't. We were given the imprimatur by the council in passing this resolution to exercise some judgment about the information that was shared, and I'll provide advice regarding that on the 18th of November.
Thank you. But if that's the case, if the confidential information was stripped out, then that document is not a confidential document and should be immediately released to the public.
Through the presiding member, the information was shared with the precinct presidents and chairs on a confidential basis, and they accepted that.
No, my point of order...
Councillor, you've received your advice from your administration. You can accept it or you can live with it.
I have a point of order.
What's your point of order?
That the council cannot determine to share information confidentially or not. We must have a provision under Section 90 of the Local Government Act to keep it confidential. So either the report is confidential or it's not.
Through the presiding member, I, as your CEO, provided information in confidence. I did not rely on any provision of the Local Government Act. It was the provision of information in confidence on a shared basis.
Councillor, you've received your advice from your administration. That's the end of that particular topic. Would anyone else like to speak? So I've got Councillor Noon next.
I just want to say that the motion, just in case, you know, I'm hearing that we've unleashed this monster or whatever, but the motion that was actually agreed to on the 14th of October was really important. It was important to get that information and to work with the precinct managers. The precinct managers, I reckon every single one of them rang me to congratulate myself and the councillors that agreed to that particular motion and to congratulate us on putting that forward. They wanted to get involved. It was just really bad for them to hear all this stuff and not know what we were talking about. It's not transparent. And at the end of the day, we did trust the administration to make those decisions on what would be confidential and what wouldn't be confidential in those discussions. Then what actually happened was they had that meeting, as I said, on the 6th of November. The feedback that I got from the precinct managers was that they were actually given to tomorrow to get their feedback back to... Now, they weren't happy with that. And nor was I, because that wasn't the intention of my original motion. At the end of the day, it's not good governance, guys. It is really bad governance to actually ask a chair, a president, to actually give a feedback who are representing their committee, and their committee is representing their community. I mean, that's just 101 governance. So at the end of the day, I still maintain that, you know, I was flexible with the timelines. I did actually speak to administration about my amendment and the timelines around this, because I actually spoke to the couple of the precinct managers. They were, you know, thought they would have to actually give their report to, you know, tomorrow. 2 weeks they were actually, it was doable. At the end of the day, though, I actually think this is dragging it out. I find this very bureaucratic, to tell you the truth. I would like to see this, maybe even a special meeting or something put in, you know, in place to deal with this prior to the 24th of February. At the end of the day, like I said, very bureaucratic. But the intention of this is very important. It has been, I think it's nearly 2 years since I put the original motion on the table. This is ridiculous. To drag this out further, to keep it within council discussion is, you know, to me, in a commercial world, we would just go to the boards and say, have a discussion with your board, do it in camera, get the report back to us. In a couple of weeks, they've already been given the heads up of what the information is. It would then come back to us, we'd then collate it, we could then, you know,
Councillor Noone, you seeking an extension?
Discussion. No, I'm just disappointed. Of course, I
Councillor Noone, are you seeking an extension?
Yes, I am, actually. Thank you.
Those members in support of an extension? That is moved. Councillor Noone, carry on.
Not going to be long. I just think that we need to actually trust our committees, our precinct committees. I'm just thinking that we're actually, you know, taking the big stick out here, and it just doesn't feel right to me. I absolutely support what Councillor Kouros was saying tonight, totally. And I'm actually disappointed how this is going. I know the precinct managers will be. They'll just feel like, oh, here we go again, dragging it out. I can just hear the discussions, and I'll just say that was a council decision.
Councillor Stephen-Trent.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. Again, want to thank Councillor Noone for bringing this forward, and I understand Councillor Kouros had input, but I don't feel like we've deviated that much from what was originally proposed. If we have a look at where we've got to, we're agreeing in principle, I think everyone around the room, that precinct groups are important. We've agreed that we want to share information. All that we're really debating here is timeframes. I think Councillor Freeman made an excellent point that hopefully we'll be out on the front foot on the 25th of November getting more information out. That's not really a significant delay. Personally, I would have preferred to have seen us make some decisions on this during December, but I understand that the way the meeting schedule works, that's not possible. I think Councillor Noone, you flagged that there's an opportunity for a special meeting to bring some decisions forward. You'd be in favour of that. I would be as well. I think my observation is we're stuck here with February because that's just the way the schedule works. But if we find through administration there's a way to bring any of those dates forward as the process goes along, let's do it. But I just get the sense that we're in heated agreement about a lot of this, and there's just a timing issue which links with Christmas.
Thanks, Councillor. I'll also just say a few words before passing back to the mover of the amendment. And I actually see a lot of points in this that have been made that I agree with. I think it's incredibly important to resolve this as soon as possible. But the problem we've found ourselves in, and Councillor Martin's made this point earlier, is that we've gone out to the heads of the precincts, precinct presidents, and we've not been able to give them all the information. They've not got a fully baked cake. And so I do feel that there is a will and a desire. I don't want to speculate on a future decision of a committee meeting, but there does seem to be a desire to open that confidentiality up going forward in the near future. And then so be able to go back to the precinct groups with that information, with the full information, I think is crucial. And we should, to be honest, we probably should have done that from the start. So I see both points of the argument. I wouldn't want to see this pushed on for further into the future, but I think we have no choice if we want to give them the full information. Fortunately for me, I'm not voting unless it's a tie. So with that, I will go back to Councillor Marr to sum up the amendment.
Thank you, Acting Lord Mayor. That was a lot of talk about changing two dates in the motion. The previous amendment, the new point 5, was incompatible with the existing dates in point 6 and point 7. Administration advised us that it was not possible. All we've done here is make those dates possible dates. I don't understand what all the fuss is about. We're talking about confidentiality over here. We're talking about whether we trust our precinct groups over here. It's just fixing the dates. This is a really simple change, just to make sure the dates line up. Once we get to council on the 25th, we can do whatever we want after we've had that meeting per the new point 5. So I think this is a bit of a... I considered calling a point of order several times to stay on topic with the point of the motion, which was just changing the dates. I didn't want to interrupt anyone's soapbox. I thought it was important everyone get it out of their system. And now I think we can move on to a vote. We can get to the committee, the next thing. We can get to the motion that we do it in council, a subsequent meeting, and we can move on from there. I'd be quite happy to support a rescission motion on my own amendment at that point in time if there is an earlier date available that we can come to at that point in time. For now, these dates, as they were not possible given the amendment that was put forward just a few minutes before. So I don't see we have any other option than to make this change and move on from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Members will now vote for the amendment. Councillor Davis, you have spoken to the amendment, you haven't spoken to the substantive, so you will get an opportunity, is my understanding. Members, those in favour of the amendment, please raise your hands. Those opposed? Division has been called.
Members' division has been called in relation to the amendment. Please stand in favour of the amendment. Councillor Martin, Councillor Giles, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Mark, Councillor Siebentritt. Thank you.
Okay, that becomes the substantive. Councillor Davis, you wish to speak, and I don't believe you have spoken yet. No, please go ahead.
The very difficult position I think the council finds itself in is it's kept this process confidential for far, far too long under the fact that this would be the unreasonable disclosure of someone's personal information. I also heard that there was commercial in confidence potentially as well. So the council has kept this in confidence. I don't want to repeat what some councillors said, but it should never have been kept in confidence. And the council has kept this away from the community when it should have just been open and transparent from the very beginning. And that is something I called for. And if you recall, I walked out of council meetings because I wasn't comfortable with the confidentiality recommendation. And now we've got a date where it's the 17th of September 2026 and an election approaches in 6... Sorry, Councillor Martin, you want to raise another point of order about something?
Yes.
I'll give you the opportunity.
He did walk out of the meeting and posted on Instagram.
I did.
I recall.
Councillor, that's not a point of order.
Oh, sorry.
I did, and I posted on Instagram because I want my community to know exactly what's going on about this. And this council has decided to keep this as a shroud of mystery. And let's make it very, 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 very clear that you cannot keep something confidential because there are 4 councillors missing. There is no provision in the Local Government Act to make that happen.
Councillor, you've received advice that that is not why the confidentiality order.
That's not what the recommendation said, but a councillor disclosed why he voted in favour of something.
Point of order. The councillor has referred to me previously. He said I was corrupt. Refused to withdraw
Never
that,
said
Chair.
that.
He said I was corrupt.
No, I never said
at
that.
the time.
I said...
Members, please. Councillor, I did not see that, but if it's on the recording, it will be on the recording.
The point of order is that I clarified my statement. The statement was there for Councillor Davis to hear, and then he reasserts that which he used to assert I was corrupt. I ask him again unconditionally
Never said you were corrupt. I said voting to keep something confidential because 4 councillors missing is corruption.
Members, please do not shout across the room at each other. Now, Councillor Martin, I will accept parts of your point of order. I do not believe Councillor Davis called you corrupt for in that scenario just then. And I did not hear if he did it earlier, but I'll acknowledge if it was said, it will be on the recording. Yeah. Councillor Davis, I will ask you to stick to the point at hand. Do not make insinuations about other councillors, especially as there has been corrections made. And look, use your time wisely, make your point.
Yeah, I want to make... Yeah, there is absolutely no valid justification in the Local Government Act to keep something confidential because councillors were missing. Absolutely not. And I'm sure Councillor Martin didn't say that, which was my original point. I asked you, I'm sure you didn't say that.
Councillor, I believe my understanding is that there has been a correction from the councillor, and you've also received several times now advice from the administration, as has the chamber, around why the confidentiality provisions
Point of order, Acting Lord Mayor.
Councillor Martin?
Just this constant banter of, you know, he's followed my advice, you do as I say. It's just appalling behaviour. This council has descended into an absolute cesspool of behaviour, and it really must stop.
Councillor, that's not a point of order, but however, I do accept what you are saying. We have to behave with decorum in this chamber. Councillor Davis, I've named you many times now. Please make your point, and please do it in a way that shows dignity to the chamber, your fellow councillors, and most importantly to yourself.
Yeah, 100% agree with Councillor Martin regarding the cesspool comment. This still needs to go to community consultation. And so how are we then releasing this? Our community should know about this change of policy. Not only should we be committing with the chairs, it should be their members, it should be the entire precincts. and we should be making this in consultation with our communities. I think the anxiety that it's now going to be late February before we come up, we're now running into caretaker mode for next election, and what has this council really achieved over the last 3 years? I think that the urgency should have come a long way back. It should never have been kept in confidence. It should always have gone to our community from the very beginning for consultation, for feedback from all of the precinct groups, not just the chairs. The chairs don't represent everybody that's there. We have different views from people in our community. Absolutely we do. And we represent different parts of that community. And so absolutely this process should go then to consultation for the wider community and for further discussion once we have a proposal that I'm not sure why it kept in confidence in the first place, but we should absolutely do that. And I don't see this getting done before the end of this council term. And I think that shows just exactly what a cesspool this council is.
Now, members, I believe most members have had the opportunity to talk multiple times due to the 2 amendments. So I will hope now we can progress and let the mover of the original motion before us, a substantive, Councillor Noon, to sum up. So, yep, Councillor Noon, would you like to sum up? Councillor Noon, sorry, your microphone's not on.
I would support parts of this motion, but the fact that number 5 has been omitted sort of makes the motion to me null and void, because I actually think that that was the most important part so that we could meet some of the timelines and not drag it into next year. So I think it's disappointing. I know the precinct managers will be disappointed.
Councillor Curran, just to interrupt your summing up, because when you sum up, it's done. If you and your seconder want, we can take it in parts.
It was already going in parts.
Is it already going in parts? Okay, it's going in parts.
Yes.
My apologies for interrupting your flow, Councillor Noon. Please continue.
No, there's nothing more for me to say except I'm disappointed, and I'm sure others will be too.
Okay, members, we're now going to vote and take it in parts. So all those in favour, if we could just scroll up slightly to part 1. All those in favour of part 1, please show your support. Opposed? Unanimous. Part 2. Part 2. And opposed? Okay, that's passed. All in favour of part 3? Opposed? Passes. All those in favour of part 4? Opposed? That passes. All those in favour of the new amended part 5? Opposed? A division has been called for part 5.
Members of division has been called in relation to part 5 of the motion. Please stand in favour. Councillor Martin, Councillor Giles, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Marr and Councillor Sippentree. Thank you.
Okay, members, that passes. Members, part 6. All those in favour? All those opposed?
Members of division has been called in relation to part 6 of the motion. Please stand in favour until I call your name. Councillor Martin, Councillor Giles, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Marr and Councillor Sippentree. Thank you.
Okay, members, that passes. And now finally, yep, part 7. All those in favour? All those opposed?
Division.
Members' division has been called in relation to part 7 of the motion. Please stand until I call your name. Councillor Martin, Councillor Giles, Councillor Freeman, Councillor Marr and Councillor Sippentree. Thank you.
Members, that passes. Members, are there any more motions without notice? Councillor Davis.
Thank you. I've been giving this a lot of thought. I'm quite conflicted. But my understanding is that we're going to have a council Christmas party, something that we would all enjoy, I'm sure. And my mind kind of turns, like, more recently to a friend who does sleep rough and his animosity towards
Councillor, sorry to interrupt. I am not going to accept this motion without notice, as it's my understanding you've received advice from administration already on this particular issue, And if you take issue with that advice given by your administration...
What was the advice? I haven't seen it. I sent an email last Friday asking if it was permissible if I invite right sleepers to the... What was the advice? It's pretty urgent.
All right, I've received advice from administration. Happy for you to seek a seconder. Councillor Noon.
Thank you.
Please proceed, Councillor.
Thank you. In the Local Government Act, I think one of the things that one of our priorities is that that we be socially just. Rough sleepers are not, in my experience, the best with technology. And they struggle. The current format for inviting people and their plus ones is difficult. Also, I understand that at the moment we can invite 10 people and then they can bring a plus one. My request to the administration is to invite 20 individuals as my allotment, I suppose. And I would just need assistance from the administration to facilitate invitations and potentially some support with suggested people to make sure that it goes as smoothly as possible. But I think given that we're approaching Christmas, I think that this would be, like in my conscience, I think that this is the right thing to do, and I think that we could extend to those people sleeping rough access to what I'm sure would be a great Christmas party for us all.
Councillor Noon, you seconded?
Yes, I think this is actually a magnificent idea, to tell you the truth, and especially the fact that it can be managed through the service providers. I congratulate Councillor Davis for putting this forward. I actually think this is actually the spirit of Christmas, in my opinion. I think, we're all, most of us sitting around this table to a large extent, as, especially, on Remembrance Day, a privilege compared to these people who are sleeping rough. I can see in my own car park at where I work, just what happens during the evening with people trying to keep out the cold and trying to get, sort of warm, and speaking to these people, they've got circumstances that have caused them to be in this situation quite often, where our homeless shelters are so packed with other people that there's no room for them in the inn, so to speak, pardon the pun. I actually think that I would totally support this and wish that I had my invites back again. But I do actually support the people that I've invited as well, because I think it's really important that we actually see all of ourselves, whether we're homeless, whether we're, privileged, whether we're, whatever walks of life we come from, that we're on a even, we're all the same, we're all equal. And this sort of says that, in my opinion. So I totally support this.
Councillor Freeman. Oh, sorry, Councillor Couros.
I think that's very noble of Councillor Davis to bring this motion in, and he's thinking broadly of the community. And I think Councillor Noon's comments, obviously, taking into account the spirit of Christmas. What I do feel a little bit uncomfortable about is that the Lord Mayor isn't here. It is the Lord Mayor's Christmas party, and I would love her to have input in this motion, and I feel very uncomfortable to vote for this without the Lord Mayor being here, even though I value what you are trying to do and trying to say, and the honour that you are in regards to people that are doing it rough, and I respect that. But without the Lord Mayor being present, and it is the Lord Mayor's Christmas party, I find it very difficult to make this decision without her input.
Councillor Marr.
Just a question. Do we need a council motion for this? Through you, Chair.
Yes. Through the presiding member, you'd need to ask Councillor Davis for the underlying motivation and urgency of the item, but I suspect it's linked to the close of RSVPs on the 19th of November. for an event that's due to be held on the 4th of December. So I don't propose to speak for Councillor Davis, but the reason my advice to the Acting Lord Mayor to accept the motion on notice was because it represents a matter of urgency in accordance with the timelines and under the guiding principles of the Act for meeting procedure. There was no basis on which it could be validly declined.
Okay.
Ultimately, this is a matter for the chamber, and your administration doesn't propose to enter the debate.
Thank you. May I speak to the motion?
Of course.
I'm concerned that this makes a bit of a political football out of those who are sleeping rough in our city. I think the true spirit of Christmas would be, Councillor Davis, to just invite these people without seeking public kudos for it.
No, I have a point of order.
Councillor, point of order.
The reason why I'm seeking this, and perhaps that would help, is that there's a current system where you have to register by email and you have to go through a process. People who are seeking rough do not have the same access to technology as we all do. And I'm also seeking assistance from the administration to facilitate this in a meaningful way. Not that I'm an expert. So the reason for this is not...
I don't think that's not a point of order, Councillor. It's personal explanation. And look, I do believe that you can get this assistance without a motion, but I acknowledge your right to put a motion. Councillor Marr, please continue.
Well, you've made my point for me. I'm quite certain the administration could provide this assistance.
We don't always get the same support.
Sure.
I don't get the same support.
Councillor Davis, please allow Councillor Marr to speak without heckling him. Thank you. Councillor Marr, please continue.
I've lost the will to continue to speak to this motion. There's nothing really more to add. If Councillor Davis needs assistance in delivering his Christmas party invitations, I'd be happy to help him.
Thank you.
Very kind offer of you.
Just a minor question. Pick up on Councillor Couros' point around this being the Lord Mayor's Christmas function. I understand the Lord Mayor's travelling, but are we in communication, and can we do a check with the Lord Mayor that she'd be in support of this?
Is that a question, Councillor?
Yes, that's a question.
Okay, through the presiding member, there's another level of motivation for this matter coming to Council. A not dissimilar request, not the same request, a not dissimilar request was put to a member of the Lord Mayor's staff, and Councillor Davis was advised that the opportunity to submit names for invitations had been revoked. So, noting that an appropriate and administrative decision was made and communicated to Councillor Davis, the matter now needs to proceed through the chamber in this way.
Any more speakers? Councillor Freeman.
Yes, thank you. I would like to commend Councillor Davis's generosity in his proposal. It's also a really good reminder of how many people are in this city that are not ratepayers. We're the capital city. 49.9% of the people that live here are renters and aren't paying rates, presumably. And then, of course, we do have a large population here of people who are not even lucky enough to have a roof over their head. So I do applaud the gesture that you're making here, as well as reminding us all that it's not just about ratepayers in the decisions that we make. I did want to comment on the process, because I'm a bit perplexed by part 2 of this. Part 1 I agree with, because the process that was taken was we were emailed a table and asked to fill out 10 names and then send it back to administration. Now, we were all responsible for communicating with those 10 people and their plus ones, whether by email, letter, phone call, carrier pigeon, whatever. So I'm not sure why administration are being asked to provide additional assistance here, but of course this is a sensitive proposal that we have here, so maybe it will help. But just to be clear, I think that the process provided by administration to all of us was quite straightforward.
Councillor Noon, you've spoken already. Anyone else like to speak on this item? Councillor Martin?
Just a question. Chair, could we take this in parts?
Up to the mover and the seconder? No, he's shaking his head, so no, Councillor. Oh, sorry, wrong way around. Members, if there's no further comment, I'll move back to the mover to sum up.
Thank you. Look, I appreciate the words of support. I do think that this is would send a clear message that we do care about those people sleeping rough on our streets. And I would very much like I do think it's appropriate that I have some discussion with the administration about how to best facilitate this, and particularly with local service providers, there may be additional information that would benefit and a way to go about this in a way that would be most fruitful. So I appreciate your support, and I look forward to celebrating Christmas with you all.
Members, those in favour of the motion? Those opposed? Motion carried. Members, we have questions on notice. We have one question, and that administration has provided a response. We'll go to questions without notice. Members, any questions without notice today? If not, we can move swiftly on. Easy. And I'll now move to the exclusion of public. Order to exclude for item 22. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Councillor Kabada and Councillor Noon. Thank you. All those in favour? Members, all those in favour? All those opposed? Unanimous, thank you. In order to exclude for item 23, can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Marr. All those in favour? All those in favour? All those against? Unanimous, thank you. Members, order to exclude for item 24.1, Councillor Marr, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? All those opposed? Thank you, members. Unanimous again.